Who is liable for the income tax? Maybe you, maybe not. Let's look at the law. The law on income tax is all contained in Title 26 of the United States Code. This law is law that must be strictly construed. By that, what is meant is that any act or any statute that's in derogation of rights or property must be construed literally. Nothing can be inferred, nothing can be implied, and nothing can be drawn from it as an indication of general intent. Either the law states clearly that you are liable or you're not liable. If the law does not state clearly that your income is taxed, it is not taxed. It must be clearly and plainly laid. And if the law can be interpreted more than one way, then that law must be interpreted against the tax collector and in favor of the citizen. So let's examine the law for a minute. The first law in the United States Code and the income tax law, which is subtitle A of Title 26, is Section 701. It tells us that partners are liable for the income tax, but only in their separate or individual capacities. We don't know what liability they have yet in a separate individual capacity, so that doesn't tell us anything yet. The next law that we can find on liability deals with non-resident aliens and foreign corporations. There's a discussion in Section 884 that states that the foreign branch corporation's branch tax is to be paid for and is that the foreign corporation shall be liable. But that's not the income tax. Section 1461, any tax under this chapter is hereby made liable for such tax. Now we found somebody made liable. What chapter are we talking about? The chapter is Chapter 3 of Subtitle A, entitled Withholding of Tax on Non-Resident Aliens and Foreign Corporations. So if you are withholding taxes on a non-resident alien or a foreign corporation, then you are liable for the payment of that tax that you've withheld. Nowhere else in Subtitle A is there any provision making anyone liable for this income tax. There is, I finally find, in Section 3403, a provision concerning withholding of taxes under Subtitle C, which is employment taxes, not income taxes. But it says that the employer shall be liable for the payment of the tax required to be deducted and withheld under this chapter. Earlier, in 3401, it describes employees and wages. Let's assume, for the purpose of this discussion, that these are income taxes and that he's liable for income taxes. So if you are a person required to withhold taxes from a non-resident alien or a foreign corporation or from an employee as defined in subtitle C, Employment Taxes, Chapter 24, then you might be liable. Have I included you yet? I haven't included me yet. Now, is this typical for tax laws? I don't think so. Every tax law always clearly states the subject. Every tax law always clearly states the person liable. I have 25 other federal taxes here. In each and every case of these taxes, they've all first defined exactly what the subject of the tax is, and second, they have defined precisely who is responsible for paying that tax. Only in the income tax law is there no or virtually no liability provisions, and there is no law making you liable unless you are one of the individuals I just listed out that does the law. If you want to see more on that, get this film, Aaron Russo's Freedom to Fascism, at freedomtofascism.com, and get, for an entire list of these statutes, get the memorandum from liefreezone.com and study for yourself. Make up your own mind. But the law is not there, and the reason that Mr. Russo could not get the government to tell him what the law was is because there is no law, and the government will not admit that.